This Fässertriqueta.
This is Joe Cole.
This is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and you're listening to the
London is Blue podcast.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, joined by my co-hosts, Nick and Dan. And gentlemen, this is going to be the Man City match preview. Chitte, whatever you want to call it. Nick, I guess we're excited because this is kind of the last big test of this gauntlet of a run that we've started the season with. And then for all the fantasy players, everyone's been targeting game week 7 to bring in Chelsea players. So game week 6 coming up, Man City, how you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I would rather it be this way. I would rather us start with a hard schedule and get to play Watford over Christmas than have to play City, Arsenal, Tottenham over the Christmas period back to back to back. I mean, let's go. City aren't in tremendous form. We're kind of getting our legs underneath us a little bit and still winning. It's all good.
Well, and who are the idiots who are not putting Chelsea players into their fantasy Premier League lineups already? Rudiger rocketing up the price charts, getting you goals and clean sheets? Come on.
A goal.
I've been very bad at fantasy.
Well, don't worry. There are worse than you. So consolation prizes. That is not me this season, though, I would like to say. But anyways, let's focus in on the City. Obviously, you guys know our match previews. We're going to be looking at how Man City are performing. Then we'll look at how Chelsea will approach the match, at least how we think Tuchel will do it. And the good news is we're recording this the night of the Carabao match, so we won't have all the information per usual, but we'll at least be able to take into account City thrashing Wycombe Wanderers on Tuesday and then Chelsea doing the business against Villa and penalties and kind of the lineups and how they might affect that. And then obviously we'll do a Chelsea Youth Academy update. And you want to listen to that one because Arsenal thrashed Chelsea at Kings Meadow. It was not good, but Phil and I break it all down. So Dan, how do you have more Apple podcasts? We just recorded an hour ago.
I know, but I refresh and there are more there because the people love the podcast. They're leaving fantastic 5-star reviews on the Apple Podcast app, even though it continues to be a terrible thing to use. So we appreciate everybody leaving 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you haven't done it already, please go leave one. It helps people find the show. But Skywolf from Ghana and Adam9 from the UK, both leaving wonderful 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. We're super appreciative. If you haven't done it yet, go do it now.
All right. Let's go ahead and hit the 3-word match preview before we look at City. I'd be interested to know. We don't obviously have logistics to do it, Dan, but know what the people are thinking on a match preview as well. I mean, I feel like we're all kind of aligned on what our thoughts and feelings are, but maybe someday when we grow up we can do that. But what was yours to kind of kick us off? Maybe you'll be the people's representative.
So you're saying that we just need to get the social game in order. That's what you're saying.
No, it's such a tight turnaround. He's saying
it's okay. No, it's okay. I get it. I get what
maybe
you
I'm
want.
I'll ask the Discord what they think.
Well, I went with Tuchel's quad goals because we're going for 4-4, baby.
All right. And this is obviously a step in that direction of a quad. Too early to tell, Dan. Are you saying that we're going to essentially have wrapped up the title after this?
Well, no. This is the 4-4 versus Pep.
Why not? Oh, okay. So
the fact that we won 3 times last season, we're now going to potentially be going on to the 4th. I thought it made a lot of sense, but clearly had multiple layers to it, which makes it even better.
I don't know how you mucked up a 3-word preview, but you confused me. You twisted me up. I got it. Nick, what about you?
If you've been following the Pep Guardiola nonsense with City fans recently, this will make a lot of sense to you. Pep's empty had problems. He called out the fans. The fans were in protest. It's happening just as...
They come to Stamford Bridge. Nick forgot that for a second, but it's fine. Point still stands.
And we're going to frustrate the absolute fuck out of them this weekend, and I'm very excited.
I think that's fantastic. I can comprehend that. It's a great shot at City. That's good. I put last big test, especially the United losing to West Ham. They're supposed to be this big, deep squad. And look, I don't really count them. So Man City, last big test before we hit a nice run of matches and we can focus on the the UEFA Champions League group stages. I don't know where that came from. I'm just going to be honest.
You're probably thinking of when drinking. Man United drops out of the of the Champions League early and goes to the Europa League. Is that maybe it?
I had Ole on the mind, apparently. So let's go ahead and look at City and see where they're at right now. Obviously, they played 5 like everyone else. They've won 3, lost 1. That was to Spurs, let me remind you. They've got 11 goals for, only 1 conceded, which is damn impressive, with 4 clean sheets. Look, it's typical City in the sense of they're tidy, they're overwhelming, they're oppressive in possession at times. But they didn't get Harry Kane, Nick. And, they've been playing a false 9. Sometimes Gabriel Jesus goes in, but he's not really cutting it. I mean, 0-0 against Southampton recently. There's definitely a lack to this City team.
Yeah, it's odd. I mean, you would have put money when they bought Jesus that it would be just another Aguero type player, and he's just not really ever come around to that level. So they've tried Fernand Torres up there. That's not really been effective. I know they've tried De Bruyne up top as a false 9 before. That's not really his best position. It's not a role that someone like Raheem Sterling can play, who needs to be on the wing. It needs a little bit more space. So yeah, offensively they're kind of all over the place. Now they've had the benefit of not having the strongest start to the Premier League schedule that you could have had, but Southampton gave them trouble last week, and Southampton has consistently given them trouble throughout the last couple of years. So it is interesting that they're struggling a little bit for goals. I mean, they'll put up 5 or 6 occasionally in the league, but losing to Spurs, that Spurs team, I wouldn't know what that's like personally.
Well, not only lost to Spurs, but you think about the fact that there's the draw versus Southampton as well. The really interesting Champions League match against Leipzig, the 6-3. They barely beat Leicester with a 1-0 victory. I mean, they really, if you think about it this way, 5 versus Norwich, 5 versus Arsenal. I mean, the majority of their goals have come against 2 of the worst teams in the league this season. Arsenal obviously rising, but Norwich is going to they're going to open the door to a lot of people getting their best scoreline for the entire season in that match against them. So I think the underlying stats are a little kind of sketchy for them at the moment. They're almost at a goal difference per 90 of 0.2 or 2.0. So like they are outperforming us in that regard. We're at 0.4. So I don't know. I feel like it's a little... There's some suspect elements to this Man City side, Brandon, that, they haven't really passed the smell test at the moment.
I mean, I see 100 shots in 5 matches, and I'm impressed. But then you see only 27 of them are on target. Created 15 big chances. It's not great. Chelsea, on the other side, have 73 shots, but 28 on target, putting us at 38%. With only 9 big chances created, we've hit the woodwork. They haven't. So you'll have to see. You give them credit, though. When they're at their best, when they play a strong lineup, they are quite tidy at the back still. Again, they're one of 3 teams, including us and Liverpool, that have only conceded 1 goal so far this season. I would like to say we take the cake since it was a penalty. Everyone else has been scored on an open play.
That's just math. That's just math coming into effect right there. Of course.
Yeah, and you got Ruben Dias playing well. Cancelo seems to be playing kind of week in, week out. Interesting, though, in the Southampton match, right? Walker was sent off, but then it was rescinded because of VAR. Like, he doesn't totally seem locked in. Is it Stones? Is it Laporte? I think Laporte just got injured. So the good news is there's going to be a little bit of rotation for their center back. So to you guys' point, like, I don't think everything's peachy keen for City. And that's on the pitch, and that's not even taking in the whole Pep versus the fans thing, which some people are blowing up out of proportion, and I appreciate that.
Me, I'm blowing it up out of proportion.
Throw rocks. Throw them.
Yeah, why not?
All right. Anything else from a City? I mean, look, they're good, right? But we've done the business against them. I'm expecting us to kind of turtle up, defend, hit them on the counter. And that's what we tend to do. They get overconfident and expand themselves and leave themselves open for that. So I think there will be no surprises from Pep and probably not from Tuchel either.
I mean, look, these 2 teams know each other quite well at this point. They've played in the league. They've played in cup matches, 2 of them. So, I mean, their squad is legitimately the best in the Premier League still. For my money, they are deep as hell. They bought Jack Grealish, who's proven to be one of their better players throughout the first part of the season. It's no joke that they're going to be right thereabouts the entire season. I think the question that you have to ask yourself if you're Pep is, what do you do to attack this Chelsea defense that has let in no goals from open play this season? What players can you deploy that will be able to get you there? And it's entirely possible that they could and that they will score. But if you're telling me that Chelsea only conceded a penalty to Liverpool, and we know Salah's been on his top game this year, right? Mm-hmm. Already, that Fernand Torres doesn't scare me up top. I don't look at Bernardo Silva and shaking my boots. I think Sterling's been good. Grealish has been good. But, their midfield is odd at times. They can overwhelm small teams very easily. But coming up against this brick wall, I don't know, man. I think they're just still going to have a hard time breaking us down.
Granted, they played Tuesday, but they did have De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Sterling, Ferran Torres, and Riyad Mahrez in attack. Dismantled Wycombe Wanderers 6-1, but that's really not the point. The point is
they were down in that game, though. They were down for a second, damn it.
Yeah. So, to be fair, though, they played 5 of their starting attackers. So, he's got some decisions to make. I don't think De Bruyne's 100% fitness yet, and he's not wearing the captain's armband, which I don't think will really diminish his role in the team. Ruben Dias has it. But anyways, interesting to see. Dan, last word on City? You good?
Hate them.
All right. That's a good
Hate them.
You feel bad for them, though, don't you?
No, I think that we'll get into it when we talk about us, but the recent form outside of these last 4, it's been a couple years that they've had our number. And so flipping the script here and reasserting dominance is of the utmost importance. Like this is the are we title pretenders? Are we really challenging for the title? Or are we actually saying we're challenging for the title, but we're not really?
No, absolutely. All right. Well, at Dan's behest, we will go ahead and move on to the Chelsea side. But before we do that, we are going to take a quick break and thank the sponsor for financially supporting the show, and we'll be right back. All right. On the flip side, no more pods this week. This is it. This is number 5. It's Friday. We did it. All right.
What more do you want from us? God damn it.
All right, so look, 5th episode of the week. That is it for us. We are done. It is time after this to just buckle in, but obviously you're able to keep up. If not, definitely go back. We had Matt Law. We had the Chelsea women mailbag. We had the Villa review. I mean, just a lot of different stuff. So next week, it'll be more of the same. We'll let you know. So Chelsea news. From an injury standpoint, obviously we're not at the press conference, or we didn't wait to listen to it, but it sounds like Mendy is still going to be a doubt. Was not even available for the Villa match, not even for the bench. Why would you risk it realistically? So I think that's probably the biggest question mark. I think Pulisic, we might get an update. Sounds like he was training outside of the squad. But N'Golo Kanté played 45 minutes today, so that was a surprise to see.
He's match fit. So I'll put a marker down right now that he plays on Saturday. How about that?
Gonna need
bold predictions from Nick Verlaney.
Bold predictions, sponsored
Best
by Coors Light.
In the world actually playing football.
Well, look, I think he is key to our success, which is not a shock, as you guys joke about. But as far as the squad overall, you would say that we're in a good place. Maybe not 100% by any means. We talked about Matt. Mason looked much better today. Kai, we're still waiting to see the final product from. The midfield seems to hold on long enough, and the defense is solid. So it's kind of more the same, Dan. It's like Chelsea are going to have to eventually get over the hump and find a way, because right now it's pretty much squarely on Big Rom's big shoulders.
Well, and if you're depending upon one person to get all the goals, it would be an issue. I mean, we could just continue with our patented defense equals offense strategy and just ask all our defenders to keep on scoring. Maybe Christensen can finally get his too. Almost looked likely in the last match, but Rudiger adding goals, Silva adding goals. Alonso, this would be a great game for him to pop up with a goal. But I think in general, I'm not as concerned because that defense has been playing with each other for a very long time now. It's the Kai, Mason, Lukaku front three that needs to get on the same page with one another. So there's not the overweighted pass or underweighted pass that misses them. They're not necessarily knowing when to pick the head up and play the ball in advance versus taking it on themselves. And I think, Nick, that's the piece too, is this will be another good opportunity to build some more of that, frontline chemistry that's a little lacking right now, which is the kind of the key point of why we've just not had the volume of shots, and then also the goals from that 3-2.
It'll be interesting to see, which lineup variation he goes with. If he goes for kind of the strict 3-5-2, or if he goes for, the 3-4-2-1 that he's been known to deploy so far. There are pluses and minuses to both, right? I think City are most likely to play their 4-3-3. So if you wanted to match them in midfield, then we kind of know what that looks like from last week. But if you did want to go more attacking and at home, I think that's kind of the emphasis, right? Is you want to get these points at home, then perhaps you do deploy the front three and just let them jive together a little bit more. I mean, this is not going to be the game where they get to experiment a whole lot. City are tough in defense. I mean, they have a pretty good back line, but it will be interesting to see kind of which variation they deploy. My guess is that we're going to get the same kind of second half from the weekend formation to start the game. And we're going to have Jorginho, Kovacic, and Kanté in there.
My only concern, I think Tuchel might share this, is if he needs to make a change, who comes off the bench? I still don't know how much trust he has in Ruben, although he had a great game today, and Saul. So I think I did take that in consideration, but I think he'd rather start with the two-man midfield and then adapt to it if he needs to. But I think that you're not wrong in that sense. It was very successful. Was that just a Tottenham thing, or was that playing against a three-man in the midfield? I mean, we won the Champions League with two in the midfield against their three, although they played with no holding mid and kind of threw all the attackers forward and just went for it. So look, I think you're going to get more.
Brandon, we beat them 3 times last season. Sometimes they had a holding mid. Sometimes they didn't have a holding mid. Sometimes they had a recognized striker. Sometimes they didn't have a recognized striker. Like, we've been beating them in all different varieties. Like the Chelsea is absolutely destroying the multiverse of Pep lineups every time they come into existence.
Was there a special time recently where they didn't play a holding mid that was impactful, or am I thinking of something different?
Yeah, Porto, my man.
Huh. Okay.
Keep the memory alive. Let's go ahead and hit those lineup predictions. I think
was there something particularly at stake in that game, or
everything?
Okay, good. All right, fair enough.
All right, lineup predictions. I think this will kind of help, cement that conversation here. I went with Kepa in goal because, as Dean Mears said, he's our number one. No, I just don't think Mendy's going to be back yet. So I'm going to guess that Kepa's going to start. But then the back line, look, it picks itself, right? Christensen, Silva, Rudiger in the back three. I do think he'll go with James. He's just more athletic, more dynamic. And then Jorginho, Kanté in the double six. Alonso back on the left. And then I've got Mount, Lukaku, and Werner up top. I think Mount, if anything, can pinch in and help in the midfield. He can play a little bit more flexible. And then you can have Mount and Lukaku ready on the break. Hit Lukaku's head or chest, knock it down, hit Werner into space. It's kind of what I'm thinking here. I'm stalling as you guys type frantically here, but
mine was already typed.
I'm happy.
Typing frantically.
I think Mount can come back and jump into the midfield if needed and leave Lukaku and Werner up top. So that's kind of like my cheat of not going with 3 in the middle. So, Mr. Dormer.
I like the shout for Werner, particularly after he scored in this match. And I could see that happening. I think also James, big game player, definitely could come in and do the business too. I agree on the Kepa, Christensen, Silva, Rudiger, like that for just I think it's an automatic at the moment. I went with Aspi because I think it's just going to be a Tuchel favoring the experience and the seniority at that moment. I went with Jorginho, Kanté, but I think you could also see Kovacic start this match. Like I just think the way he's been playing, he's also finding assists. He's getting further forward.
Scored.
He scored this season. Like there's a part of me that's thinking, is Tuchel trying this idea of getting N'Golo Kanté in for like 30 to 40 minutes of the most critical moments of matches so he can play him in more matches versus asking him to play a full match back to back to back? Like, we got Juventus coming up next week. Like we don't have easy matches coming up in the next week and a half here. So I could foresee that happening, but I'm going to go with Jorginho and Kanté and Alonso. Mount, Lukaku, Havertz. I think he's going to try to build some chemistry there. I think it's a little harsh on maybe Werner after getting the goal, but that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at, Nick.
I'm going to throw something different at you. I think Mendy's going to be back. I have a feeling. I have a good feeling. I think Aspi, Christensen, Rudiger makes up your back three. I think it would be a crime not to play Reece James after the performance he had today, which was excellent. I think he will be flanked on the other side by Marcos Alonso, who runs down the wing for me. I believe that you're going to have the midfield three start together again. J5, K8, and Ngotlo all in the middle. And I think you're going to have Havertz and Big Rom up top. That's what I think is going to happen. And I would look for N'Golo Kanté to be deployed in the go fuck shit up mode.
Just destroyer, chase whatever you see. Just go get it.
Yep, and he'll get a turnover up top, and I think good things will happen.
So, Dan, prepare yourself for lineup jail.
Lineup jail?
Yeah.
Why am I in lineup jail?
Because you didn't put Reece James. Did you not hear, Nick?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's criminal?
Yeah. So
go to the AC penitentiary.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. You're going to need it. Regardless, all the lineups are strong. You know, Kepa is a potential weak link. Although he is playing with confidence, there's still no doubt he's not a Mendy. Having Mendy back, I would say against Tottenham, the players in front of him were still worried about anything getting back to him. I felt like
It's not the same.
Correct.
It's not the same.
Villa, I felt like it was better. He had to make more saves in the match, so I think that gave them more confidence. So even from 3-4 days time span, he looks a far greater presence in the box. So we'll have to see. But I mean, Mendy's the man. I mean, he is so good. So other than that, we'd love to hear what your lineup predictions are going to be. Obviously, don't send it to us an hour before the match when Tuchel has officially announced it. We'd love to hear it much earlier than that.
59 minutes before the match. I got it right, guys.
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, the Chelsea play predictor won't allow that. So, why should we? It's the early match on Saturday, by the way. So
6:30 a.m. guys. Fuck off.
4:30. 4:30.
Brits is not open at that time. Yeah, but you just stay up all night gaming, Dan. I mean, come on.
No. There has to be sleep. There has to be sleep between end of the day on Friday and the start of watching this match on Saturday. There will be rest.
Friday's my power down day. Like, I need to veg out and watch TV and go to bed. Like, awful. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, it'll be an early start. You probably get your apartment cleaned by noon after that. So, score predictions. Apparently, I'm the curmudgeon. 1-1 draw. Okay.
I take it.
Great.
It'd be fine.
Dan?
I think you have to win at home. I think if you are the title challengers, if you are the leader in the title race and you want to put the pedal on the gas, I think you need to win, and I think we do it 1-0.
Nick?
Okay. 2-0 Chelsea.
Love it.
All right. Doubling down.
Fuck it. Let's go for it. This City team is good. I said that before. They're not their most lethal version that we've seen over the past couple of years, though. I mean, they've been better than they are right now. And they like Dan said, our recent run of form against them aside, they've had our number for a couple of years now. So it would be really nice to beat them at home for once and really put a marker down to the rest of the league to say, hey, we've already played 4 of the top 6 in the first 6 weeks of the season, and we've only dropped 2 points. Good luck with the rest of it. Now it puts pressure on everybody else. It puts pressure on Liverpool and United, who I don't think are that good, to go and take points from City or to take points from each other. And all it does is like if we're able to elevate ourselves at that level, everybody else is fighting, and we just gotta go. Watford this weekend. Let's go.
You're right, because there's no perfect team. Like Chelsea has its flaws.
Yep.
United has a midfield that is amorphous at best at times. You have a Liverpool side that they don't have depth, right? So they're going to have to rely upon the starting 11 plus 1 to 2 being healthy enough the entirety of the season to carry them across the line. You have a City side that maybe in January goes and buys a striker, but they don't have the 9 that's really going to be there to carry them. This is any one of those teams' titles to win, and it's just going to be the finest, the razor-thin margins in matches like this. You pick up 3 points versus City versus just 1 for a draw. That is huge in this title hunt.
I mean, the difference is that we have N'Golo Kanté and the rest of them don't. I mean, I just...
Yeah, they're not.
He's incredible.
They're not the high-flying City that we've seen in years past. And, you know, while we kind of joke about it, like, Pep has already announced he's leaving City. And, like, it's not great right now. I mean, they're great. They're a good team. But, like, they clearly didn't get all the transfer business they wanted done. You know, even the Benjamin Mendy off-the-field stuff is terrible for them. These are distractions. It takes a player out of their ranks. You know, I would, if I'm a City fan, like, all is not perfect. If you're over in the Chelsea camp, everything is about as good as it possibly can be. I mean, people are talking about Tuchel finally providing stability and staying at the club for 5-10 years, coming off the Champions League win. I mean, if you look, I think most Chelsea fans would feel like we're on even ground with City right now. Usually in years past, it's, okay, can we defend and try to catch them on the break? We'll take 0-0. If we can sneak one, great, right? But we always felt like we were punching up. Now we're toe-to-toe. We're eye-to-eye with City.
Yeah, I mean, we have done some really shrewd business to get there. I mean, their spending power is insane. We know that. And the odds are that they will continue to do that, and Chelsea will continue to play by, I think they're called the rules. So, you know, it is what it is. But again, you know, they have De Bruyne, we have Kanté. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see what kind of shithouse move that Rudiger pulls in this match to throw their team off. And it will likely make the NPET shithouse moment of the match for me. And that will be your match review moment to look forward to on Monday when you're like basking in the glory of the 2-0 Chelsea win.
Is that actually the big difference? If we go down and like drill into the lineups, I think we now have the team that's just has that little bit of steel, that more steel on the side than theirs does. Because in previous years, their team, look, they went out and hired mercenaries, right? They hired the best they could in positions and fielded a really tough lineup, and credit to them. But like the steel isn't as sharp in Man City anymore.
Well, they used to have the Fernandinho shithousery, the David Silva magic from midfield, and De Bruyne, and it was a different type of City attack. And now they don't really have the mix properly set up. Rodri's not Fernandinho. He wants to just sit back there and pass. He doesn't want to really get it in the mixer. And while their defensive line is better than it has been in years past, there's no doubt about that. I mean, Dias is not what was his face? Otamendi from back in the day. You know, they're better defensively, but they don't have the magic sauce, I don't think, right now. And specifically without a striker, I mean, we have the better striker. We have both better strikers right now, actually.
Sure do. All right, what is one inconceivable prediction that we have? By the way, I think Joe has kind of like blown this open, and I was like always trying to think of like something that might actually happen. Now I'm like, screw it, let's go wild, let's have some fun with this. He's like, I think Eric Dyer's gonna get his head stuck in the net. And I'm like, yes, thank you. I have a newfound freedom.
I died. That was so funny. That was so funny.
I put Pep throws a fit and gets sent off. I just don't think he's in a good place right now. One wrong decision, he's gonna pop off and get tossed. No, I didn't say it, Dan. I didn't say Pep off. That was too easy.
That would have been good, though. I would have appreciated that. I think the listeners would have appreciated that.
What about your wild prediction?
So I don't know if you know this. Lukaku, not only a great scorer of goals, but was a great assister of goals last season as well. I think Lukaku will assist the game winner, the 1-0 goal that I'm looking for, to Mason Mount.
Damn near did it against Spurs. Mason whiffed.
Yeah.
Yep. I still love him. It's just, it happened.
We're working on it. Here's an inconceivable one. Jack Grealish gets booked for simulation. Let's go. Come on. Let's go, baby.
You could probably put money on that and feel comfortable.
No, I don't think so.
No, because it always goes his way.
Yeah, always goes. He has the Hazard treatment right now, but I think he's going up against a crafty Azpilicueta. He'll be fighting a little Reece James on the wing, and then he'll get to Asby and try and slip shenanigans, and I don't think it's going to happen this weekend. He's going to get booked.
If not for simulation, what would he get a card for?
Punching someone, probably.
Shin guards too short.
Just straight.
What's a
as soon
guard?
as he walks on the pitch, the referee's just waiting for him with the card.
Well,
sir, that's enough out of you. Thank you.
Guess who it is? Michael Oliver.
Ugh.
Robert Jones's fourth official doesn't matter. Darren England's VAR, don't know who that is. So
it could be worse. It could be Mike Dean.
Anthony Taylor.
Could be that fuck. Fuck
all
that
right.
guy.
Let us know what your fun and potentially realistic inconceivable predictions are. This could be a really fun game for us. And obviously we'll keep an eye on Discord to see what'll happen. But we're going to go ahead and pitch over to myself and Phil, do an Academy update. Again, we're talking about Dev Squad, thrashed 6-1 by Arsenal. The U18s, who won again against the other top team in the South Division. And then, we look ahead. The U19s, it's kind of a hybrid team, are back in action. They travel with the men's team to Turin. So hope you enjoy it. We'll be back after that. All right, everybody, welcome to the youth update with none other than the Chelsea youth himself. Phil, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here, and let's talk about what's been happening the last week. There's been no shortage of talking points, as always.
Absolutely. So, reviewing the results, we had the Dev Squad, right? The U23s taking on Arsenal in the PL2 action. It was at home, at Cobham, it was at Kings Meadow, correct?
Yeah, correct.
6 Arsenal, 1 Chelsea. Where do we begin? Because I think everyone's going to get headline shock at hearing that Chelsea got pumped by Arsenal 6-1 while we were the home team.
Yeah, the worst result at that particular age group for some 15 years. So it's not an everyday occurrence, and it certainly hurts a little bit more when it's against a London rival like Arsenal. We'll get it out of the way. It wasn't a good performance in any regard. I don't think you can pretend that it was if you lose 6-1. There were some mitigating circumstances. You can level out. There was a soft penalty for Arsenal very early on. But by and large, it was a poor performance. I wouldn't say it was a 6-1 performance. They created enough chances sort of in the last 15-20 minutes of each half that they may have been able to make it look more respectable. But they were outclassed considerably on the day by an Arsenal team that wasn't necessarily much older. It had a little bit more experience. It had following Balogun, who's played a dozen first-team games, and a couple of other players who are slightly older. But it was, it was chastening. It was one of those days where the weather encapsulates the mood. It was heavy rain at Kings Meadow, and things just started going from bad to worse. And in particular, they were 3-0 down midway through the first half. Arsenal got that early penalty, and then there were 2 goals in 2 minutes that sort of put the game out of sight. There was then a glimmer of hope before half-time because Arsenal had Omar Rakik sent off. And it was one of those. It was a borderline penalty, whether it was a free kick or right on the edge. And so at that point, you wondered: did Chelsea want the goal, or do they want the man advantage? Because it's the double jeopardy rule. It wouldn't have been sent off if it was a penalty. They got the man advantage. They didn't manage to get the goal, and then right before half time, Arsenal grabbed a 4th goal on the counter attack. And you can sort of convince yourself at 3-0 down that there's an opportunity to mount a comeback. But when you go in 4-0 down, you've had that hope extinguished, I think.
Yeah, it definitely kind of went from bad to worse. The penalty was really a no call. Like, the players came together as the ball went out of bounds. Sharman Lowe saved the penalty. Great. but the rebound went right back to the Arsenal player. And it's kind of one of those things, right? Where a lot of things didn't go their way. You see this sending off, you're like, oh, maybe this will help, but it's just more of the same. And the rain really, really, really did pick up, which, again, both teams had to deal with it. I think I was a little sad to see Mboyamba let a ball float over his head, for the second goal. I know there's been a lot of talk about him. He's still training with the first team. And so this is my obligatory, hey, just chill on him. He has some development to do. High hopes. All right, end that one.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of criticism for his part in that goal from Mika Birith, who is a really, really impressive young striker that Arsenal brought in from Fulham this summer. And watching it live in the ground, I wouldn't have necessarily aimed any criticism at him for it. It was a wonderful cross by Balogun and a really, really good finish. And maybe the television camera angle was less flattering to him, but it was not an easy ball to deal with by any means. Now, you can put some criticism towards him for his part in the fifth goal in the second half. He was trying to sweep up a ball down the Arsenal right channel, played it a little bit too tentatively, gave it away to one of the Arsenal substitutes, and then allowed him to come all the way inside. And for a player who's 6'5" and a tremendous athlete, you wanted to see him assert his authority outside the box before he gets into it. Because once the attacker gets into the box, your options are so much more limited as to how much you can engage with them. So there was some criticism there, but he wasn't alone. It was a poor performance all around. Andy Myers made a triple substitution at half time, trying to inject some life into the team, but also there was nobody who played well in the first half. There were some good performances on the day. Good, not great. Harvey Vale had another good match. Judson Sutbell finished the match really well. Hit the crossbar with a really nice right-footed curling shot and missed by inches with a nice left-footed curling cross. He did really well as the game went on. Xavier Simons got 45 minutes in his comeback from injury. He was playing at right centre-half but pushing on into midfield. Like he hit the post for the consolation goal with Jay Wareham scoring the tap-in. And Lewis Hall, one of two first-year scholars in the squad, 16-year-old Brody Hughes had started again. Hall played at left wing-back, which isn't necessarily his best position. He's a bit like Harvey Vale. Vale played there last season. Lewis came on and played there in the second half and gave a really good account of himself after a bright start to the under-18 season, playing as a 6 or an 8 in midfield, which is his best role. So there were bright moments on the day, but there's not a lot you can do to get away from the 6-1 defeat.
I'm afraid to ask you about the standings.
Yeah, I don't like to look at the table in early season, but Chelsea currently find themselves bottom of the table. Winless, bottom of the table, and that's 5 of 26 matches, so 20% of the way through. They play Liverpool at Kingsmeadow on Friday, hoping to bounce back. And if they don't win that, then I wouldn't necessarily say it's time to panic, because this is a league where you can easily make up ground quite quickly. But you then talk about 6 games at the start of the season, plus a 7th in the EFL trophy against Exeter City, where you haven't managed to find a winning start and then to start generating some momentum. It can quickly go downhill if you go 5, 6, 7, 8 games without a win. And there's enough talent in the team. We know that. We've seen a lot of these boys come together for the UEFA Youth League, and they beat Zenit St. Petersburg 3-1. So they've had wins this season to their name. But it's a little bit of a concern that they went to West Ham and lost. They went to Man City and lost. Now they've lost at home to Arsenal 2-1, 4-1, 6-1. Maybe there's a slight lack of goals, because without Harvey Vale, you've just had Brian Fiabema scoring. So it needs to come together a little bit more. And I said that the first month of the season was as much about getting fitness into the players after a quite fragmented pre-season for all of them. A dozen of them were out for injury or COVID reasons. So there's still some of them trying to find their way back. But now that we're hitting the end of September, you'd like to think that they're up to speed and be able to show what they can do. Well, unfortunately, they've lost Bashir Humphreys for a good couple of months. He's out injured. So an already inexperienced defence is going to be stretched even further now. And someone like Sam McClelland, who's the captain, he's a senior international for Northern Ireland, he's going to be relied on even more to keep a young unit together.
Yeah. And so with that, Liverpool as the next match, look, they've only won 1. All right. They're in 10th. So it's not like this is Premier League Liverpool. Very, very different. So the U19s did not play. We'll actually talk about them later in the preview, but the 18s did as well. And they took on Blackburn in the Premier League Cup, and this is the group stages. So it's a little interesting to me that there's a cup competition that has group stages and knockout. Can you explain this PL Cup for the U18s?
Yep, it takes in all of the 28 Category 1 clubs, and the main reason for it existing, apart from expanding the games program, is that the Under-18 league is entirely regionalised. There's 14 North teams, 14 South teams, and you don't play intra-regionally. This cup competition allows that. So Chelsea are in a group with Reading from the south and also Blackburn and Derby from the north. They play one game home or away. And then you go through to the knockout stages. There are 7 groups, so you have the 7 group winners and the one best runner-up. They go into the quarterfinals and single-legged ties all the way through to the final. Chelsea have won this before. They won it in Jody Morris's both years as Jody Morris's under-18 manager. And it didn't run last year because of the pandemic. It usually runs under 18 and under 16 levels. They merged the two to make an under 17 version last year, and now they've got all 3 going. So this was the first of the matches, and it was between the only 2 teams in Category 1 who came into the match with a 100% record. So it was competitive. It was feisty at times. Blackburn gave a really good account of themselves. They went ahead with an own goal, and it's probably deservedly ahead, and Chelsea got themselves level just before half-time. So we were talking about the Arsenal development squad game and the importance of that 4th goal that Arsenal scored before the break and how it changed the second half. If Chelsea had gone in a goal behind to Blackburn in this under-18 game, it may have felt a bit different, but Malik Mothersill scored the first of 2 right before the break with a simple finish from a nice assist by Louis Flower, who had a good game and an interesting end. And then they capitalised in the second half. Ronnie Stutter got his 6th goal of the season. He closed down one of the defenders, robbed the ball off him and scored. Blackburn then equalised, but 2 minutes later, Mothersill scored his 6th of the season. So just 2 players for the under-18s who've both got half a dozen goals already. And they were able to hold out. It got competitive. Blackburn had 4 yellow cards and a red. One of Chelsea's players was sent off for his part in a fracas at the end of the match. So it was one of those things where you could feel the tension in the match, but that's a good thing for under-18s a lot of the time. You want to see how they stand up and fight and prepare to scrap for the points in a knockout competition. I know it's only the group stage, but you can't really afford to drop points in a 3-game group stage. Again, it was another young team. You had Caden Wilson and Somto Boniface continue in the defence. Prince Adegoke came back in goal, had a really, really impressive match, particularly from the perspective of his handling. There were a number of saves that he made where he was able to hold on to the ball, and I always find that quite impressive in a young goalkeeper, because more and more these days, and for good reason at times, parrying is taught. But if he can trust himself to hold the ball, big advantage for a goalkeeper who is a physical specimen, to say the least. But yeah, a good win. Derby and Reading drew in the other match, so they've already got a nice 2-point advantage.
I love that. Talking about Prince, he had a good reaction save too off a close range header. And to your point about catching it, it's kind of funny because when I was, training and stuff, I had really good coaches who were like, you have to catch everything. It's non-negotiable, to a fault, but it was to teach you to catch it. Whereas we see today a lot of, bad deflections go back into open play and things like that. But the attackers and the technology in the soccer balls today and the footballs today is so crazy that it makes a goalkeeper's life so much more difficult. I mean, we all remember, wasn't it the Jubilani at the 2010 World Cup that literally you didn't even have to hit it in the sweet spot and it would just knuckle and move. So, there's some advantages, and goalkeepers have to adapt, but seeing Prince step into that and, elevate himself in that sense is really good, and again, 3-2, good result, digging deep. It's something you like to see, because I look at the U18 league standings, right? Blackburn are top of the North, right? So they're exactly. A very strong team. They've played 4, they've won 4. They're cooking.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was important that Adegoke had a good match in that regard, but also he's had some testing times with injuries over the last 18 months and hasn't played as much as he might have liked. So getting him back into a position where he's able to play regularly and influence the team only helps the club. Ted Curd, the 15-year-old goalkeeper who's been mainly the first choice for the under-18s, was up with the 23s for the Arsenal game. It was a chain of effect from Edouard Mendy not being available for the first team at Tottenham, because that meant that Teddy Sharman Lowe travelled with the first team squad, took part in warm-ups and whatnot. So Lucas Bergstrom was in goal for the Arsenal game. Kurd went up with him. Ethan Wadey was the third goalie for that game. And then Adegoke played for the 18s. And and there was another under-16 goalkeeper on the bench for that one. So they've got a lot of options when everything all comes together, but some of those options have been uncertain for the last couple of years. So Sami Tlemceni's the French goalkeeper. Well, I say French. He's now representing Morocco at youth level. He was brought in about a year ago. Hasn't played very much either. It's one of those things. If you can start getting them all back out onto the pitch, then you've really got some options. And Adegoke is starting to show why he got a scholarship at Pro Dion, is quite highly rated.
No, oh, absolutely love that. And like I said, I mean, Chelsea U18s are top of the South Division. Again, this isn't that competition, but this was the top two teams for all intents and purposes going head to head. And Chelsea coming out on top 3-2 is a big result. So I just want to kind of frame that for them. So as we look ahead for them as well, it looks like they will be taking on Leicester City on the 25th. So this Saturday.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
A brand new training ground for Leicester. They went up there last season and they rescued an injury time point. Joe Hagan, Marspat Harris scored in that one. The reverse game at Cobham, Chelsea had beaten Leicester 8-1. Jude Soonsup-Bell scoring 4 goals. And we spoke about it on one of the catch-ups last season. Leicester were really struggling early that season. And it would have been to nobody's surprise. Academy coaches know what they've got in their squad and they know what they're working towards. This season, Leicester have started a lot more impressively than they did last year. They are currently in mid-table, 2 wins, 2 defeats, but they're a much more competitive team. They've got a couple of good results under the belt already. They went to Brighton and won, which is a feat that very few teams actually managed to do. They've got some interesting young England internationals, and that'll be a tough game for them, especially going up to a new facility that Leicester have now settled into. It's as good as everything else in the Premier League now, so it'll be a good game for them.
Yeah, so again, Chelsea undefeated, winning all 4 of their matches, 18 goals for, 5 against, with a perfect 12 points. To your point, Leicester having won 2, lost 2, scored 5, conceded 7 on 6 points. So I'm excited to see how they go. Again, the U18s have been rocking. It was good to see them overcome a really tough challenge against Blackburn. That only continued to drive them for confidence. And then lastly, you've got the U19s are going to be in action. So 2-parter here, Phil. What to expect as this team travels with the men's full team to Juventus to play the Juventus U19s. I have no idea what Juventus U19s are or what they're about. And then 2, again, teams are playing this Saturday. They're playing next week, midweek in the Champions League in another country, and the dev squad. How do you think this is going to shift around rosters?
It'll be interesting. Obviously, the development squad have got their game on the Friday, so there'll be a 5-day gap between playing against Liverpool and then a 6-day gap because the Juventus game is on the Wednesday. So they've got plenty of time in between to pull double duty for the majority of them. I'd be surprised if it wasn't a relatively similar team to the one that beat Zenit. It might take a little more of an experienced look because it's an away game against the youth team of a European powerhouse. I won't pretend to be an expert on Juventus' under-19s. They are competitive, but they did draw their first group game away to Malmö. And they have a former Chelsea Academy player in Samuel Illing Jr., who came through and played quite a lot as an underage under 18. He was playing up as his schoolboy as a left wing back or as a left winger. Really, really highly rated prospect. England under 17 international. Chose not to sign a scholarship with Chelsea and went out to Juventus. He's now playing for their C team their under 23 team in Serie C. So he's playing at professional level. He'll be available for this competition and will no doubt relish going up against some of his former teammates. He's a really, really promising talent. But Chelsea will be buoyed by winning their first group match, and if you can go away and get a result in the second one, you set yourself up really well for home and away against Malmö in match days 3 and 4, and hopefully give yourself a strong chance of qualifying for the knockouts, which they didn't manage to do the last time they were in. It's the only time they failed. So there's definitely an appetite to get back to the top table of the UEFA Youth League anyway.
Yeah, well, obviously it's a special one for the academy, just like it is for the full club on the men's and women's side. So we'll be excited to see with that. What an experience for those kids to get to fly to Turin and play Juventus. Because outside of international football, these academy teams, they don't really travel to play other European teams, do they?
It's part of the games program, younger age groups, and some clubs do it more than others. And Chelsea have been sort of at the forefront of going around Europe for prestigious tournaments at different age groups, and it's very beneficial. But the UEFA Youth League brings something extra. Joe Edwards did a piece with UEFA on the importance of the UEFA Youth League, and mentioned that in Lampard's first season, when the first team went to Ajax, he said he looked to Fikayo Tomori, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, looking around the Amsterdam Arena, and sort of thinking, we're here. This is where we belong. This is what we're in it for. He said that they wouldn't necessarily have been quite as well prepared for that sort of stage if they hadn't been through some of the UEFA Youth League experiences, travelling abroad for a midweek match. Sometimes they would share flights with the first team if it was a chartered flight in particular. Preparing yourself in the same regard as the first team would for that internet, because you'll fly the day before the game. You train, you prepare properly, and then you fly back. It's hard to manage yourself physically and mentally in those conditions, and that exposure to it as a young age, under 19, some of them even younger than that, really does prepare you really well for the sort of levels that Chelsea want to play at in European football. So, having not had that opportunity at any age group for over a year now because of the pandemic conditions, it's definitely going to be an eye-opener for some players who will be doing this for the first time, for some who haven't been able to travel for 2-3 years for international competitions at any age group. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think they will be too.
All right. Well, very excited to see how that result pops out. Obviously, we'll try to communicate if we're able to catch a stream or anything that enables us to watch. But a lot going to be going on again. There's so much just on the academy play. Obviously, 3 teams on top of the men and the women and everything else going on. So, Phil, super, super grateful to have you on and appreciate the quick update on what's going on at the academy.
Yep, I'll just say one more thing. That Juventus match is scheduled to be broadcast live on BT Sport in the UK and on UEFA TV across regions where the rights holder isn't broadcasting it. So look in your local listings.
Oh, perfect.
Keep an eye on Twitter at Chelsea Youth, because if a match is being broadcast, I will tell you where it's being broadcast.
Look, and if you're not following at Chelsea Youth, what are you doing? So let's see, road to 1 million for Phil.
It'll be a while coming.
All right, well, that's going to wrap us up. We're going to kick it back to, I don't know, whoever's doing the next part of this podcast. Probably myself, probably Nick and Dan. Here we go. All right, well, Academy update over. We have one more half sleep, really, until Manchester City. Dan, got the alarm set?
I always have the alarm set. I'm always there.
I just want to make sure it's probably earlier than you normally get up. So
shouts to the West Coast Warriors at 4:30 on Saturday morning. It's a
3:30 a.m. lineup. We'll be on Twitter. We'll be going live. It's good.
It's a hard knock life out there, man.
Hey, Venmo your boy to run Twitter. Send him a coffee.
Yeah,
he's gonna need it. All right. Well, Nick, I expect you to be in full kit wanker for this one.
I mean, I'll have the shorts, but yeah, I'll be wearing the shirt I wore to Porto when we beat City in the Champions League final. I think it's a small tournament that we won last May, if you want to recall.
Yeah.
It's a glorious, I think, is a word that you could use. It's fine.
Champions of Europe.
Good way to prep is if you haven't listened to it yet. You might be a new listener. You might be someone who just started listening to the London School podcast this season. Go back and listen. Go back into the archives. Not far back, because we are the current champions of motherfucking Europe.
Might surprise you.
Listen to our Porto travel diaries, where we went to Portugal. We went to Porto. We made it happen, and we saw Chelsea win the Champions League. And it's probably the best episode that we've ever recorded. Outside of maybe some of the other like anti-racist stuff that we've done.
Okay, like, social causes aside, 90 minutes
pure
of football.
Pure football.
Yeah.
It's the best one.
Yeah,
Chidge is right. Uncle Chidge was right.
Yeah, you can't replace it. It's a fun listen to. Joe Tweeds interviews us about our experience. So the tables have completely turned in that episode.
Not hungover.
Not 0% hungover, feeling great.
Third choice host just kind of came in and bam, nailed it.
Yeah, well, but we sound great. We don't sound hungover at all. We certainly weren't drinking before we did that podcast at all.
It was fun. You guys will enjoy it. What a way to relive it. I have so many feelings and memories flooding back to me. I think I'm going to end it now before I say something I didn't mean to. Again, send us your score and lineup predictions. We love to run through those in Discord if you're not there. It's our Patreon community. It's an amazing community of people, especially if you don't have a local group there. Come hang out with a few hundred awesome Chelsea fans that never disagree and don't use threads. But hey, that's a story for another time. That's going to wrap it up, Chelsea fans. So until next time, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.